Dad said I was dead to him, so I let him say it to the investor I secretly represented. I was 22 when my father disowned me. It wasn't some dramatic courtroom moment or tearful family argument. No, he just stood across from me, in his polished office, beneath the same oil painting of himself that hung over the fireplace for as long as I could remember, and said, "You're dead to me, Emily. Don't ever step foot in my company again." And that was that. My crime? Daring to disagree. I'd just graduated with honors in finance and made the naive mistake of thinking he'd value my opinion on his company's spiraling debt. I'd brought spreadsheets, data, projections, like a good little analyst. He didn't want my brain. He wanted obedience. So I walked out. Not just out of his building, out of his life. I remember the receptionist's eyes as I passed by. Pity. The same look the family dog used to give me when I was 12 and crying in the laundry room. For 2 years, I didn't look back. But I didn't forget. You see, there's something people like my father never understand. When you burn a bridge with someone who built their life trying to win your approval, you don't just destroy a relationship. You create a weapon. I became a weapon. While he was busy buying golf courses and mistresses, I got a job at an investment firm. Small, tight-knit, aggressive. The kind of place that saw corporate ruins as opportunity. I started small. Coffee, notes, late nights. But I had fire, I had numbers. And most of all, I had motivation. My father's company, Davenhall International, was tanking. Slowly, elegantly, like a chandelier falling in slow motion. Publicly, it was still a legacy in transition. Behind closed doors, it was bleeding out. I watched it from a distance like a scientist watches a dying lab rat. Detached, curious, a little amused. Then one Monday, everything changed. "Emily," said my boss, sliding a manila folder across the desk. "You ever heard of Davenhall International?" I didn't blink. "Sure, used to be a major player." He grinned. "We're thinking of acquiring it, quietly. Might be a good salvage if we play it right. We want someone to lead the due diligence. You up for it?" I could have said no. I could have pretended I was busy, passed it off to someone else. But let's be honest. I've always liked poetry. And nothing is more poetic than your father not realizing the investor he's begging for help is the daughter he declared. "Dead." "I'm in," I said. "The plan was simple. I'd go in as the firm's representative, under the name Emily Rhodes, my mother's maiden name. My father wouldn't recognize me. I'd changed since he saw me last. Straightened hair, glasses, confidence. And besides, he never paid attention to details that didn't serve him. 2 weeks later, I walked into the boardroom of Davenhall International like a stranger. He was there. Older. Grayer. Still wearing those stupid gold cufflinks that looked like Monopoly pieces. He didn't flinch when we shook hands. Didn't blink at my name. To him, I was just another suit with a checkbook. And I played the part well. We sat, talked numbers, listened to him spin the same tired legacy story. "Davenhall isn't just a company," he said, voice dripping with self-importance. "It's a dynasty, built on grit, built on loyalty." I almost laughed. Then he said it. "You know, funny thing," he told me. "My daughter, she tried to tell me how to run this place once. Came in here with her little degree and her spreadsheets. I told her she was dead to me." He chuckled, like it was a joke. I smiled. "That must have been hard." He waved a hand. "Some kids just don't get it. But anyway, the numbers speak for themselves. We're still strong, still worth every dime of your investment." I nodded, pretending to take notes. But all I could think was, "You're about to find out just how dead I am." After that meeting, I locked myself in my hotel room, threw my blazer on the floor, and screamed into a pillow for 10 straight seconds. Then I laughed. Not the cute kind of laugh. The kind that comes from somewhere hollow. The kind that sounds a little like revenge. I didn't cry. That was the old me. The one who used to beg him to come to school plays. The one who used to pretend his silence was just stress. The one who used to think maybe if I just tried harder, he'd look at me like I mattered. That version of me had been buried under, "You're dead to me." I was something else now. I spent the next week going through his financials like a surgeon with a scalpel. Davenhall International was even worse off than we thought. On the surface, they still had assets, contracts, a shiny logo. But peel back, the facade, and it was all rot. Over-leveraged properties, ballooning debt, lawsuits in progress. He was desperate, and desperation makes people careless. My firm wasn't interested in saving Davenhall. We wanted to carve it up, flip the valuable pieces and dump the rest, but we needed him to agree to a deal that gave us the access we wanted. A handshake, a signature, a facade of partnership before the surgical strike. And the best part? He still thought I was just a polite, quiet analyst named Emily Rhodes. I'd sit in his boardroom and listen to him spew platitudes about grit and legacy, while his CFO winced at every spreadsheet I pulled up. I could tell the poor guy knew the truth but didn't have the spine to say it. One afternoon, we were alone, just me and my father. He poured himself a whiskey, even though it was barely noon, and offered me one. I declined. He raised an eyebrow. "Your sow." "Loss." I watched him take a sip and asked, "Do you ever regret cutting your daughter out of your life?" He froze. Just a flicker. "Regret?" He chuckled. "I raised her, paid for her schooling. She chose to turn her back on me." "Turn her back? Sure. If disagreeing with your financial mismanagement is a betrayal, then yes, call me Judas." "Some bridges burn themselves," he added with a shrug. I looked him in the eye. "Or maybe someone just got tired of walking across them and getting set on fire." He didn't register it. Not even a flicker of recognition. I was invisible to him, until I wasn't useful. He'd built his empire by treating people like chess pieces. And if a piece ever learned how to move on its own, off the board. Fine, I could play that game too. By the end of the month, the offer was ready. My firm was prepared to acquire a significant portion of Davenhall assets in exchange for a soft landing. Restructuring, temporary leadership changes, fresh capital injection. In short, we'd save the castle, but he had to give us the keys. I personally delivered the proposal. Sat across from him as he scanned the pages. His face twitched. "Barely. This is robbery," he muttered. "It's a lifeline," I said sweetly. He looked up at me with those cold blue eyes that used to make my stomach twist when I was 7, and broke his golf trophy. "You don't understand legacy," he spat. "No. I understood it too well. I just chose not to carry his anymore. Sleep on it," I told him. "But don't take too long." Then I walked out, calm, collected, professional. Got back to my hotel, poured myself a whiskey, and stared out the window. I wasn't worried. He'd sign. He had no choice. But I wasn't done yet. I had one more move to make. One last reveal. He thought he was negotiating with some faceless firm, a chance to save his company without humiliation. But soon, he'd find out exactly who held the pen. And when he did, I wanted to be there. Watching. Smiling. He signed. Of course he did. The moment the ink touched the paper, my father unknowingly handed over the remnants of his crumbling empire to the daughter he'd buried with 7. Careless words. He looked smug when he did it too, like he'd just won a poker hand with nothing but a pair of 7s. "We'll turn this ship around," he said, folding the agreement and sliding it across the table like some gentleman's duel had just ended in his favor. I smiled. Just enough. Professional. Polished. Not too big. But inside? I was fireworks. Not the sparkly, romantic kind. The kind that rattles windows and scares dogs for miles. "Congratulations," I said. "Big changes ahead." He raised his glass. "To new beginnings." "Oh, Dad, you have no idea." 2 weeks later, we scheduled the official transition meeting, a formal presentation for key stakeholders and future investors. My firm flew in. My team prepped slides, numbers, even a new leadership structure. He assumed he'd remain chairman. Of course he did. Men like him always think the world is allergic to moving on without them. The event was held in the same hotel ballroom where he once gave a speech about family values in business. I was 14 at the time, in the audience, invisible behind a tray of hors d'oeuvres. He didn't know I was there. Didn't see me cleaning up champagne flutes with the catering staff to earn extra cash for school supplies. Now, I was walking onto that stage in a tailored suit, holding the remote for the slideshow. No name badge, no title. He still didn't. No. I waited until the third slide to say it. The one titled, "Restructuring Leadership, a New Chapter." As the room fell silent, I turned to face him. "Before we continue, I'd like to introduce the partner who led this acquisition. The one who performed the due diligence. The one you shook hands with." He blinked, tilted his head. Still not computing. I took off my glasses. "Hi, Dad." You could hear the oxygen leave the room. His face turned the exact shade of unwashed linen. Mouth parted, hands flat on the table, the kind of stunned stillness that only happens when someone's entire worldview gets kicked in the throat. "Emily?" he whispered. I didn't flinch. "No. Sorry. You said Emily was dead to you, remember? So this must be someone else." There was a beat of silence so long, someone coughed just to prove we hadn't all died. Then I clicked to the next slide. His name, in bold red, under a section labeled Retirement and Transition Plan.